The dungeons of Doom hold many dark secrets, and a lot of powerful ones too, which is why we have so many people coming from every corner of the world to try to get a piece of what Doom left behind. And we're just getting started. So first, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so going into this, we head back over to Latveria, where we're told it was once called the Jewel of the Balkans, a place of mirth, culture, and natural beauty. In modern times, it holds less flattering titles: the Monster's Den, the Iron Jewel, Doom's Shadow. And just like we were told before, with Doom gone, this place is now a war zone. And throughout this, we'll see that it goes far beyond what we've dropped into now, which is just the US soldiers against some Latvian freedom fighters. But this continues with the narration from General Ross, with him saying Victor Von Doom is dead. His strongholds lie empty. His people are leaderless. Allies, rivals, enemies, and vassals alike scramble to gather up his leavings. For who can know what secret treasures Doom has hiding within its walls? So on one hand, we have the Latvian freedom fighters, who for the most part are just trying to hold their own and not have their home taken by the US or anyone else for that matter. They're just trying to stop the American conquest, but they really and truly aren't aware of the secrets and hidden artifacts that Doom has in his possession. And really no one is, not in its entirety at least. And even with that being the case, some of these guys do know a little bit more than your average Latvian, but we'll get back to that. But nonetheless, there are some dangerous secrets hiding away here, which is part of the reason why the US has given General Ross the green light to make sure that America has control. And now for a moment here, we get a bit of a back and forth between Sergeant Major Woods and General Ross, where Woods tells him that they pushed the freedom fighters back. But Ross doesn't even like the idea of calling these guys freedom fighters, because the way he sees it, if they wanted freedom, they'd let the US take over. But during this, out of nowhere, the US troops get hit from above, because now Hydra's here, and they're aiming at both US and Latvian forces. And at this point, the freedom fighters have their back to the gate in the firefight with US troops, and Hydra's timed this so that the US has done most of the work, to the point where all they gotta do now is just swoop in and take out both sides. So now the freedom fighters are scattering, and the US troops are calling for air support. But as you might expect, General Ross, he's not just gonna let Hydra swoop through and just take the castle. So he tells his men, fine, I'll do this myself, just like I always do. And when General Ross goes in as the Red Hulk, he goes in, and he goes hard. In fact, he goes so hard that it sends himself, along with a handful of Hydra agents, some Latvian freedom fighters, and a small group of US troops deep under the ground. And with how this is done, they're all separated, which from here is what takes us into different chapters where we follow these different groups as we go on to see who else has made their way to Latveria. But in chapter 1, we start out with General Ross and the US troops, with him being separated from the group and trying to round them all up. But as they gather themselves and cut on their flashlights and take a look around, they find themselves so far under Castle Doom that when they look up, there's no light or no sign of where they fell from. And just know, this is the uncharted territory we were talking about in Will of Doom. And really just one of those locations, because back in Will of Doom, when Foggy and Cole were telling Reed and the others how they weren't able to get a full picture of what all exactly Doom owned, that's because for years, Doom has had a lot of secrets tucked away in Latveria, which not only made it impossible for someone on the outside looking in to try to put a specific price tag on everything that he's owned, but it's also been nearly impossible for the military to fully map this place out without physically being here, which is very much a risk in its own right. But as General Ross is trying to dig through and find the Major and the others, this stirs up a whole new problem for the pack, because as Ross is punching his way through the ground to get to these guys, it now has the roof coming down on them, so they gotta move. And it's almost set up like a scene out of a classic horror movie, because the path these guys take, it's a way where the door's already broken open, so they gotta take it. And when they do, we find out that this could possibly be the worst room that they could have walked into. Because when they walk in, they see this guy who's been chopped up and seemingly experimented with. And as they approach, a pre-recorded message begins to play. And the voice recording starts here saying, "This is the voice of Professor Charles Xavier. If you are hearing this message, you have tripped a proximity alarm. Turn back. This room was never meant to be opened. It holds an organism beyond your comprehension. A mutant who should never have been born." And now, just based on the title of this chapter, with it being called The Whisper Man, and us seeing this dude with his mouth stapled or stitched shut, in addition to Xavier's warning, which clearly indicates that he knows this guy's here, the details of this telepathic message imply that there was some sort of dark agreement between Xavier and Doom. But this is just one of many discoveries, or horrors I should say, that have yet to be found. And after this, for chapter 2, next we head over to the Latvian freedom fighters, But right away we find out these guys had a much rougher landing, and some cases were much worse than others, much worse. But as these guys try to round up who they can and regroup, they end up coming across one of the Hydra agents who survived the fall. Kinda. So at first they're like, what should we do with him? Then one of these guys asks him, why is he here? And the Hydra agent's just like, you don't even know what you're guarding, do you? Then he's like, but you're gonna find out. And dude pulls out a knife. And mind you, he has absolutely no reach. Buddy is pinned under a rock. But even still, the freedom fighter leans in, knocks up that arm, and he's like, hey, hold this for me. And from there, they keep it moving. And as they do, the big guy out of this group, I think his name is Boris, he's over here thinking out loud, like, where's there to go when you're nowhere? We need to get the hell out of here, man. This place is a death trap. And mind you, all of this is translated from Latvian. But the leader of this group, Alexander's like, shut up and remember your dignity. And now from here, he leads them to an area of the dungeon that's called the Crypt of Monsters. And Alexander lets the others know, since they couldn't defend this place, they're turning to a whole new strategy. And their new strategy isn't so much the case of looking for survivors and killing them, because one of those survivors is a Hulk. So instead, their new plan is something more like a race. So this is where Alexander pulls out a map and he tells the others, we have an advantage. Doom killed all the engineers and construction workers who built this facility, but not before they leaked information to a rebel faction. And he goes on to let them know in this room, in the Crypt of Monsters, this is where terrors are buried. But also inside one of these tombs, there's a shortcut that'll give them a passage to the deepest dungeon, where Doom keeps his most closely guarded secrets. So from there, he calls for a couple of the fellas to help him open this tomb, and come to find out, what they discover inside is definitely not a shortcut. So for a moment here, they try to put up a fight, only to quickly learn that bullets are not helping them out here. So it's either stay here or die or find that shortcut. But now this continues with the narration from General Ross, with him saying, they all have their reasons for being here, the scars they carry that will never heal. Boys watched his parents be electrocuted by Doombots. Fadir was tortured. Sophia spent most of her childhood in a work camp. That's where her jaw was torn off and replaced with a scrap Doombots. And Alexander, he lost his sister. And now this leads to a moment where he believes that he's guided by his sister, with her telling him which tomb to open. So he tells the others the passage is here. And Sophia's like, how do you know? So he tells her, I made a mistake before, but this is the way. I promise. And we have no choice. Then from here, going into chapter 3, this takes us to the Hydra agents, who for a moment are trapped in their vehicle down here with gas leaking inside. So one of them lights a torch so they can see, and dude's like, keep that torch away from the fuel, idiot. But another one of them, a guy by the name of Thewlis, it's looking bad for him. He probably has a broken back. So a bunch of these guys help carry him out because he's dead weight, all except for one dude who didn't even want to make contact with the poor guy. But once they're out and they start looking around for an exit, they see a hammer sitting off to the side on top of an anvil. So another one of them goes to pick it up, but it doesn't budge. So Mr. Don't Touch Me with the blonde hair here is like, hey, leave it. We need to find a way out. So he heads to the door, he tries to push, it won't budge. But this whole time, all the other crew members, their concern is about their man on the ground, who's unable to move on his own. And when he tries to talk, they tell Mr. Don't Touch Me that Thewlis is trying to say something. And dude walks towards him like, oh, is he? I have something to say as well. And he just shoots the poor fella. But right away, that's when he starts to hear something that the others can't, because it's a voice coming from the hammer talking to him, and only him, with it whispering the word worthy. And now with this third chapter being called Spixemi, which I think is Icelandic for betrayal or deceptive behavior, this guy's just earned himself the worthiness to wield this new power. And next, when we go to chapter 4 titled The Wakandan, we continue with more narration from General Ross, with him saying he flies at night. In Wakanda, they call him Umbra, meaning shadow. Since the fall of Doom, Latveria has descended into chaos, a war zone of competing forces. Wakanda wants a piece of the land, resources, wealth, power. But Umbra is not Wakandan, even if he is here at their behest. He wants only one thing, one small thing, and then he will be on his way. His king might be the Black Panther, but he acts alone, as he serves another. And throughout this, we see Umbra land on top of Mount Doom and make his way inside. But really quick, this guy's like the dark opposite of the Black Panther. So instead of the heart-shaped herb, this guy's all about the skull-shaped herb. And instead of serving Bast, his god is this huge bat named Nagiku. And now he's come here to get some crazy power upgrade. And he's instructed by Nagiku, I think that's how you say it, to kill any who stand in his way. And now Ross continues here saying the dungeons of Doom have been quiet for a long time. They welcome these visitors, who now must survive the shadows without and within. So yeah, this first issue is set up like a bunch of consecutive teasers, all hinting towards what we're gonna see down the line. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and let me know some of your thoughts down in the comments. because I can only imagine what other secrets we're going to find in the Dungeons of Doom as this continues. And so now real quick, I'm going to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.